holds a she holds, okay, I'll start over. Saunia is a registered psychotherapist with the College of Registered Psychotherapists of Ontario. She holds a psychology and human resource degree from the University of Waterloo and a Master of Counseling Psychology degree from Yorkville University. Sonia Palmer Nelson is a founder of the private practice called Refining Therapy Services. She provides psychotherapy to individuals and families from all over Ontario, Canada. As well, she's a therapist at the University of Toronto, where she provides therapy to the medical school students, doctor residents, and fellows of Tarmetry Facility of Medicine. In both roles, she does not force her faith on her clients, but she will never deny, hide, or ignore the impact her faith in Jesus Christ has on her mental health. Through her holistic and client-led approach, Sauna supports individuals and families from various cultures and various religions. Her professional experience spans various settings. Morneau Chappelle, these are places she's worked for. Morneau Chappelle, Associate Youth Services of Peel, Toronto Youth Services, University of Toronto, and University of Ottawa. She is passionate about creating a space. There's just a little bit of echo. Okay, I'll just try to finish. She is passionate about creating a safe space where individuals can be their authentic selves, unlearn, unlearn unhealthy thinking habits, heal from past traumas, and adapt new skills to confidently move on in life. Sonia is a clinical director of her great team of six other clinicians, clinicians, tongue tie, varying from registered social worker, registered psychotherapist, registered social service workers, and child and youth worker, with an amazing operation manager and brand strategist, all of whom identify as Black females. This team is passionate about spreading awareness of mental health to all the community within their reach. Sorry, I'll read that again. This team is passionate about spreading awareness of mental health to all the communities within their reach, expanding people's support network, and ensuring people embrace their authentic self. Most importantly, Sonny is a mother of two, Anaya and Jerome Nelson, wife of George Winston Nelson, and proud daughter of Colin and Lily Palmer. She loves the Lord and aims to please him with every gift, talent, and breath he has given her. At this time, I'd like to present to you our speaker or presenter, Sister Sonia Palmer Nelson. Give her a hand.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Marcia. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to those online, to those here in the house. Thank you for getting up early and making yourself present. I'm excited. It is an honor to be able to share again regarding mental health concerns. It's a privilege to be able to come into the house of the Lord and to share, let alone on such a sometimes sensitive topic. I do not take it for granted. Today's topic that I want to expand on, throughout this convention, we've been talking about unshakable faith. We've been referencing the chapter of Hebrews for those of us who have been attending. And so, what I want to speak on today, or I've been led to speak on today, is how to maintain our unshakable faith in the midst of trauma. How to maintain our unshakable faith in the midst of trauma. I hope those online are hearing me well. So, that will be the topic for today. There are some slides I've asked for them to share. Just hoping they can share them so that you guys can see.
What FaceTime? Oh, you got FaceTime. Sorry. What do I accept?
While they get sorted, there's an excerpt I'd like to read to you guys to set the tone. It's from an article with the psychologist, the American Psychological Association, The Intersection of Religion, Spirituality, and Trauma. It reads, Kaya Banks grew up in rural North Dakota in an intact Presbyterian family, the daughter of a physician and a homemaker. Her family was financially secure and respected in the community. And through her elementary and high school years, she had strong social support in her peer group and was academically successful. She regularly participated in youth group missions trips with her church, engaging in activities such as building houses after natural disasters. Before she went to college, her most stressful experience was watching her family deal with her sister's Addison's disease. She was concerned about her sister and quite involved in her care. Months of testing was necessary to arrive at a diagnosis, and the family's lifestyle changed drastically. To help her sister return to health, Mrs. Banks' faith group valued occupations that provided help and care for others. So she went to college considering a career in biological sciences, possibly to become a nutritionist or a physician, like her father. Remember, she has a father who's a physician and a mother who's a homemaker. For her, a career in this area felt like the most effective way she could pursue a religious mission to help and serve others. However, in her first week of school, at a fraternity party, to welcome first year students, she was given punch, like a drink, fruit punch, if you want, that had been laced with hypnotics and was subsequently sexually assaulted. Having grown up in a secure community and environment, it had never occurred to her that anyone would deliberately harm her. She felt betrayed by her college community and by God. She felt that she had been doing everything she could do to do what she thought was right, and interpreted the predestination beliefs of her church to mean that God had planned for this assault to happen to her. Her faith was severely challenged, and her acute trauma reaction was sufficiently disabling that she left college midway through her first semester, certain that she would not return to the same college if she would ever return at all. So this is a classic example of how we are faced as believers to maintain and hang on to our faith in the midst of trauma. I preface today's presentation or discussion with that the topics may be very sensitive, and if at any point you feel uncomfortable, take a deep breath, pause. I will not be offended if you need to step away. Sometimes the topics can be heavy. Remind you of things you've seen, heard, or have gone through in the past. If you're able to share my slides, that would be helpful. Okay. Well, the agenda for today, forgive me for the echo. I'm hoping that by the end of this discussion, we leave with understanding what is trauma, how does a trauma impact our faith as believers, what are trauma responses, how do we treat trauma, whether in therapy or not, and dangers of ignoring or dismissing trauma. Should I just pause for a second? We're hoping that by the time we leave this presentation, we are aware of what is trauma, how does it impact our faith, what are trauma responses, how do we treat trauma, and the dangers of ignoring or dismissing trauma. We could go to page 3. All right. Soon, you guys will be able to see a picture that says Unshakable Faith. And around it, you'll see terms like divorce, death, fear, lack, meaning lack of anything, disease, depression, pain, poverty, danger, immorality. These are all things that commonly individuals this is what shakes them. This is what people come to therapy about. This is what people are becoming homeless over. This is what people are having breakdowns about. This is what people are carrying, even when they smile at you on the street or at work or at church. They are carrying these things with them, and it really shakes their. According to the Canadian Association of Mental Health, trauma is. Can you everyone hear me? Wonderful. Trauma is the lasting emotional response that often results from living through a distressing event. So, experiencing a traumatic event can harm someone's sense of safety. Please hear this. Your sense of safety, your sense of self, and ability to regulate your emotions. This is crucial for those of us who are practicing to ensure we have unshakable faith. When you're experiencing or going through something traumatic, your sense of safety is shaken, your sense of self is shaken, and your ability to regulate your emotions. In other words, to calm down, right? The notion of I'm angry, but I will not sin, right? I'm in sorrow, but I'm still going to show up to where I need to be, right? My ability to regulate. When we're going through traumatic situations, those 3 elements are tested, tried, damaged, unable, yes, you're dysregulated, unable to function, right? So experiencing a traumatic event can harm a person's sense of safety, sense of self, and ability to regulate emotions and navigate relationships. Long after traumatic event occurs, people with trauma can often feel shame, helplessness, powerlessness, and intense fear. I often pause at the intense fear because it brings a lot of shame. They kind of go back and forth. You bounce from shame, intense fear, powerlessness. It cripples us. It can, I should say, cripple us. Hmm. Trauma is any type of distressing event or experience that can have an impact on a person's ability to cope and function. Trauma can result in emotional, physical, and psychological harm. We're on page 5, if you're wondering. So let me pause here. Sometimes when I speak about trauma, people I hear comments like, well, any sort of hardship is trauma then, Saunia? Any hard thing we go through is just trauma? And I don't want us to be ignorant. There's a difference between hardship and trauma. There are two particular terms I want to educate you about. There is ASD, acute stress disorder, and then there's PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Acute stress disorders regarding stressful situation that impacts us for between the time period of 3 days to up to a month. Acute meaning small, right? Not long, yes, right? Something, maybe it's a one single incident, not reoccurring. And then post-traumatic stress disorder, this can last up to 6 months and beyond to years, right? Not to be mistaken with postpartum stress disorder, 2 different terms. If we could please go to the slide with the picture of the brain. The picture of the brain, that'd be very helpful. Keep going. The picture of the brain, yeah, keep going, 2 more. Yes, I want the picture of the brain, the one that has how trauma affects the brain. Yes, right here. Thank you. If you could press present so it zooms out. Right. So for those of you online and in-house, I'll read to you what you're seeing. This is a picture of the brain, and it breaks down how trauma affects our brain. So you'll see, for example, the prefrontal cortex. This is where we have our rational thinking. So when going through trauma, this is the area that's supposed to regulate our emotions. Remember, the ability to calm down. So regulates emotions such as fear, responses from the amygdala, which we'll talk about shortly. And so when we're going through postpartum, post stress disorder, PTSD, this is reduced. The prefrontal cortex does not work effectively. This is why we can't regulate. It's not just a matter of he say, she say, like your brain literally does not function appropriately. Another area, the amygdala. This is wired for survival. Now, when we're going through trauma, it's chaotic. And so it's constantly in survival mode, right? So the more hyperactive the amygdala is, hence a very traumatic situation, the more signs of PTSD will be present. Okay. Then the hippocampus. This is responsible for memory and differentiating between the past and the present. So many times someone goes through a traumatic situation and they're constantly bringing up the past. They won't let go about what happened in 19, what's it. They just keep repeating that over and over again. This is a sign their hippocampus is being damaged by the traumatic experience, right? And so this area is supposed to work to help us remember, hey, that's the past and this is the present. But the more exposure we have to trauma, that hippocampus shrinks and we become more repetitive. We become more stuck. Now, this is important because we're trying to maintain unshakable faith. How do we ask someone to maintain unshakable faith when their hippocampus is shrinking from trauma? How do we ask someone to maintain unshakable faith when their amygdala is going off the roof, hyperactive? They're unable to regulate themselves because their prefrontal cortex is dysregulated. How? Next slide, please. Trauma often falls into three different categories. So one, some traumas such as accidents or natural disasters. They're a one-time event. They're limited in duration and scope. This is example of such as like an earthquake, right? We can't control this. We didn't see it coming. This is a disaster that impacts many people. Category number two, these are long-lasting, ongoing concerns, such as like a chronic illness, being diagnosed with something that changes your life. All of a sudden you have all these appointments or your loved one is diagnosed with something and now you're pushed into a caregiver role prematurely, right? And then number three, this is often something that occurs from childbirth or surgery or even in your earlier age of childhood. Three major categories. I pause here to remind you with the next slide. According to Hebrews 11, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. We're trying to maintain unshakable faith, and it is ignorant of us to ignore trauma that we're going through while trying to have faith. It is ignorant of us. It's if we do not acknowledge the trauma someone is going through or that we are going through, we cannot have unshakable faith. We cannot maintain until we acknowledge and adjust and deal with it. And that's what I'm hoping we can address today. Can we go to the next slide after faith? How do we recover from faith? Many individuals come to workshops, come to therapy, and they are taken aback by the simple steps we propose when dealing with trauma. They're expecting some big, extravagant scientific method of like, this is what you have to do, when actually, biblically, it's quite simple, as well as scientifically, it's quite simple. But we take these steps for granted every single day. I've gathered some of the most common steps and pieces of advice that psychologists, psychotherapists, social workers give to their clients when dealing with trauma. And none of these are going to sound like rocket science at all. But we're going to go through some characters and individuals in the Bible who actually displayed these steps so that we can make them more clear. So the steps are, when dealing with trauma, be patient and kind to yourself. Can we go to the next slide, please? Be patient and kind to yourself. Number two, focus on what you can control. Next slide, please. Number three, Breathe and take breaks. Yes, this is the right slide. Number 4, take care of your body, your entire body. Number 5, communicate. This is not a time to isolate. Number 6, break things down. You are not Superman, Superwoman. You have to break things down. Sometimes you'll have to delegate. Number 7, establish a routine. When going through trauma, we tend to just try and do everything and all things. We have no routine. There tends to be a lot of chaos. Number 8, stay informed. Go to your doctor's appointments. Seek support, seek help. And lastly, know your limits. You cannot do everything. If you're claiming to do everything, what are you going to bring to the feet of God? So I'm going to use these common sense points to then show you how individuals in the Bible have used this so that we can do so ourselves. Let's go to the next slide. Before we address those characters in the Bible, we're going to remember common trauma responses. This is something to keep in mind and do a heart check with. When we are experiencing trauma, we as humans, tend to do one of the 5: fight, flight, fawn, flop, or freeze. Something happens that rocks our nature or shifts us, it scares us, or someone we love is going through something, we want to fight in the sense of literally fighting or rage or being a bully, aggressive, or sometimes we flight. We want to leave right away. We flee for safety. Sometimes we'll flight by overeating, trying to escape in our emotions, becoming distracted, or becoming an addict. We try to stay busy during this time. Mm-hmm. Fawning is often known as attached a form of safety where you'll just do whatever it takes to make this argument end. So the person wants you to move out of their way, but they're being very aggressive and abusive. And instead of you saying, hey, I don't like that, or stop, you just do whatever it takes for this argument to stop. If it means moving out of the way and doing something he feels is not what the Lord is telling you to do, I'm just going to do it. I'm fawning in that moment. Then there's flop, often confused with freeze. The difference is with flop, you literally lose control of your body, often fainting. Whereas freeze is you're scared stiff. You're in control of your body, but you're stuck in your head. You're stuck in your brain. You're frozen, lost for words. Keep in mind in this moment, which one do you often do? When tested and tried, when your faith is tested and tried, which one do you tend to do? In reflection and preparation for today, I found that I tend to fawn and sometimes flight. Something happens that frightens me or shakes me up or feels like my life is going to be over or what's going to, and I tend to, okay, what can I do to just get it out of this situation? That has been something I found myself doing in the past. Or flight, how do I just get out of here? Let me just run, go to mom's house. Let me just run, let me just get to dad's house, right? Rather than, okay, what about the Lord? What about your prayer? Take a deep breath. What are your words? What are your thoughts? What about the Holy Spirit? In addition to those places of safety, but what about all those steps? If my amygdala and my parts of my brain were calm, I'd have those options available. And my faith wouldn't be as shaken. Right? We have to be conscious and aware. What are the trauma responses we often run to and lean on? If we become aware of our trauma responses that we often become aware of, then it's easier to maintain the unshakable faith we've been preaching about all week. If you don't know your trauma response, chances are your faith is shakable. You need to know, hold on, what is my pattern? When I'm at my weakest, what do I tend to do? So that when I'm in the midst of fighting, if that's my response, hold on, I'm doing that thing. Let me retreat. Let me calm down. Let me not choose fight here. Let me choose to remember the word of God. Right? I'm about to flop. I'm about to faint and pass out. Hold on. Hang on to my sister, my brother in Christ. Ask them to brace me up. Allow me to stand in my faith. But if we don't know our trauma response, you are going to be easily led astray. Your faith will be shakable. Next slide, please. The next slide shows mistakes we often make when trying to maintain our faith. We, as human nature, we often completely isolate. We often turn to substances, and not just hardcore drugs or alcohol. Sometimes it's a certain food that we know we're not supposed to eat because of our weight or our blood sugar. Sometimes it's a beverage, not even alcoholic, but all of a sudden we're just often turning to that beverage, right? Sometimes it is a certain perfume, is a lot we just all of a sudden excessively are dependent or attached to this substance. Often when we're trying to we're in the midst of trauma and challenged by our faith, we will project onto others. I'm going through a rough time because so and so abused me and I'm angry and I'm projecting it on you. You came in here having a good day, but I haven't dealt with what I'm going through and now I'm projecting it on you. Almost as if I want you to also not have a good day. I'm not settled. I'm not okay. So how come you are okay? That's what it looks like in the midst of trauma. Then there's rejecting facts. Our loved ones, our friends, our community trying to remind us that God is in control, that God knows all, even in the midst of chaos, in the midst of storm, He is with you, and you're rejecting this. But just 2 weeks ago, before the trauma, you believed it, you understood it, you would tell it to others. But now, in the midst of it, you're rejecting. This is often a sign that your faith has been shaken because of the trauma. Okay? And then the one we take for granted, no routine. In the midst of trauma, trauma can shake up our lives and it can, again, make our faith shakeable. And because of that, we have no routine. The first thing we can do to take back a sense of control is to develop routine. Even the most basic of things, starting with our hygiene in the morning. Developing that routine is the difference between sanity and insanity. That can do so much for us. Next slide, please. This is where I'm going to pick on a few characters in the Bible and individuals who I'm sure we've read about time and time again. I'm going to ask a few of you to, if you have your Bible, to just turn to these chapters with me. Can someone volunteer to go to Ruth chapter 1 and 2? Just put up your hand if you can do that. There's about 5 different chapters I need someone to turn to. Ruth chapter 1 and 2. And then can someone go to Job chapter 1? Can someone else go to Esther chapter 1? Another Esther chapter 4. And the last one, Mark chapter 14. I'm going to repeat these. So I'm asking for someone to go to Ruth chapter 1 and 2, Job chapter 1, Esther chapter 1 and 2. Thank you. Esther chapter 4, and then Mark chapter 14. All right. You said you have Ruth. Can you read Ruth chapter 1 for us? We're going to focus on how Naomi and Ruth managed their faith in the midst of trauma. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. Ruth chapter 1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to dwell in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech. The name of his wife was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Marlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they went to the country of Moab and remained there. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons.
I pause, Sister Kamisha, here because this is the moment where we realize this is a piece of Naomi's trauma already begins. Her husband dies. He's the provider, right? The source of income in the home. And now he's dead. She's left with the two children.
Now they took wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Ophrah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. Then both Mahlon and Chilion also died. So the woman survived her two sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters in law, that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had visited his people by giving them bread. Therefore she went out from the place where she was, and her two daughters in law with her. And they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her two daughters in law, Go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each in the house of her husband. So she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept.
Thank you, Sister Kamisha. And so, in this, what we've just read, Naomi is telling her daughter in laws to go, go, go while you can. And we talked about common mistakes we make when dealing with trauma in the midst of our faith is isolation. We're telling everyone to go, leave us alone. We want to be by ourselves. This is a sign of going through trauma. I'll continue reading from where you left. I have the NIV version, so forgive me if it's slightly different. Verse 6. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters in law prepared to return home from there. With her two daughters in law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her two daughters in law, Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness, as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of your good husband. Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud and said to her, We will go back with you to your people. But Naomi said, Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons? Who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband, even if I thought there was still hope for me. Listen to that. Even if I thought there was still hope for me. No, she's hopeless. Hopeless. Another symptom of trauma. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. There's the projection we talked about. The anger is coming out of her. Would you continue waiting? Would you do, how are you going to manage? I'm barely managing. How are you going to manage? There's that anger that's coming out of the trauma as well. No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me. Rejecting the facts here now, right? The Lord's hand is turned against me. At this they wept aloud again. Then Oprah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her. Rejecting, isolation, leave me alone. Rejecting facts, leave me alone. Mhm. But Ruth replied, Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Ruth is also someone who's going through the trauma right now. Vicariously, she has witnessed this and is in it with Naomi. But her reaction is very different. She refuses to isolate. She does not want to go and be alone or just try something new right away. She'd rather stay with Naomi, right? And she's not projecting. She's not rejecting any facts. And she wants a routine. This was supposed to be the plan anyways. Why are we going to change it? She wants the routine. Let's go over to Job. Job number 1 or chapter 1. Did anyone find that earlier? Let's see how Job managed with trauma. I think it was. hmm, oh, not one. Oh, okay. Job chapter 2, forgive me. Chapter 2. I'll read. On another day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them to present himself before him. And the Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There's no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil, and he still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason." "Skin for skin," Satan replied. "A man will give all he has for his own life. But now stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face." This is now the unshakable faith. He's proposing that he's going to have unshakable faith if you do such things. The Lord said to Satan, "Very well then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life." Hmm. He is in your hands, but you must spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and afflicted Job with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. Remember the three different types of trauma we talked about. One is a one time incident, one could be chronic illness that you're dealing with for time and time again, afflicting the body, and the other could be from childhood. Job was stricken with the one that is chronic illness. Let's see how Job deals with the trauma and his unshakable faith. Then Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself with it as he sat among the ashes. His wife said to him, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." He replied, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" In all this, Job did not sin in what he said. Mm. Remember those simple steps we talked about on how to treat trauma? We said to focus on what you can control, breathe and take breaks, take care of your body, communicate, break things down, establish a routine, stay informed, and know your limits. We also said to be patient and kind to yourself. I believe here when Job is reprimanding his wife and saying, "Shall we accept the good from God and not trouble?" In all this, Job did not sin in what he said. Is this not an example of Job knowing his limits? There are times where I'm going to get the good from God, and then I'm also going to experience some trouble. I have to know my limits. I'm not going to have everything my way. It's not always going to be peachy cream, easy lifestyle. There's going to be some challenges. There's going to be some trauma along the way. This does not mean I should now curse God. He's reminding himself and his wife to maintain his unshakable faith. Does this make sense thus far? Mm-hmm. Another example I'd like to share then is between Vashti and Esther and how they managed and maintained their faith or lack thereof. If we could turn to Esther chapter 1 and 2. Esther. Okay. I'll try to speed things up here. We're referring to chapter 1 where I can never pronounce this name correctly. King Xerxes. I don't know how to say his name, King Xerxes, maybe King X. Forgive me for not knowing how to pronounce, but he is throwing this big, extravagant royal party for 7 days. And his beautiful wife, Queen Vashti, declines his request to come out in her beautiful gown and show her beauty. And because of this, he is embarrassed and it's just in front of all these royal friends that he has, and now he is pressured to do something about it. And when he takes counsel from all the individuals in his community, he's advised to then make an example of Vashti and pick someone else. This is what we're learning in this Esther chapter 1. Let's look at the difference of how he and handled this traumatic experience. For him, this was probably very traumatic. A king who's used to getting everything he wants, throwing a 7 day party, calls upon his wife. She then embarrasses him and shames him in front of everyone and says, "No, I'm not coming out there." And he's forced now to do something about it, and not something about it in private, something in public, so that now every woman is known what to do when spoken to by their husband. Chapter 2, we hear a little bit more about Esther. Okay. The difference between Esther and Mordecai's situation, when Mordecai's informed or overhears the plans and they're trying to kill King X, forgive me for not knowing his name, he informs her right away. And what did she do of the steps that we talked about? Did she suddenly start to blame herself? Was she unkind to herself? No. Did she huff and puff? No. The Bible says how she went into prayer. Did she take care of her? Did she harm herself or harm her body while going through this traumatic situation? No. Did she isolate herself in prayer? Not isolate herself from everyone for no reason. She isolated herself in prayer and turned to the Lord and fasted. And I believe, if correct me if I'm wrong, I believe her servants fasted with her as well. So these simple things we take for granted when dealing with trauma. These are the simple steps that help us maintain our unshakable faith. And so it is also so for minor issues in our life as well, not just these biblical examples. You're going through death in the family, you're going through grief, you're going through getting a horrible diagnosis or bad news from back home. And instead of freezing, fighting, flopping, fawning, instead of projecting on others, instead of forgetting all of the word and all that God has told you, we are to take a deep breath. Be kind to yourself, communicate, try to continue your routine, and in doing so you stabilize your brain, those parts of the brains that we talked about. And it's once those parts of our brain are is regulated, that's when you can maintain and exercise the unshakable faith. You cannot exercise the unshakable faith that we have been preaching about all week when your amygdala is dysregulated. You cannot practice the unshakable faith when your hippocampus is off the roof. It does not work as so. Does this make sense? For those who joined us last, I want to remind you our prefrontal cortex is for rational thinking. The more we are exposed to traumatic events and ignorantly ignoring it, the less likely it is you're going to think rationally. The amygdala is what's supposed to be used when we're in survival mode. And if we're exposed to traumatic events over and over and over again, your amygdala is now hyperactive. If you're thinking you're in survival mode all the time. Someone steps on your toe by accident, you're ready for war. That's an example of your amygdala being hyperactive rather than just being in a calm state and actually effective when needed. Rather, you're just ready for war all the time, right? Because of trauma, unresolved. And then the hippocampus, responsible for your memory. You often see these examples when someone is stuck in the past. They cannot differentiate the past from the present. Their hippocampus is constantly being exposed to traumatic events and it's not being addressed. It's not being resolved. And every time that happens, their hippocampus literally shrinks. There's research on this. It literally shrinks. And so for us to ignore traumatic events, to ignore trauma that we've been through and claim to have unshakable faith, the two cannot exist. You have to acknowledge and identify the trauma you are going through or experiencing, work on it, name it, address it, bring it to the feet of God. Then you will have unshakable faith. Does this make sense? Okay. Lastly, I just want to remind you, if we don't identify what is our common go-to trauma response, again, it is very hard to maintain unshakable faith. For those of us who joined us late, the 5 common trauma responses are fight, freeze, flop, flight, and fawn. Fight, literally as it sounds. Freeze, like you're stuck, you're lost for words. Whenever you see that person who abused you, or whenever you see that person, or you get into a car after a car accident and you just freeze. That's a common one. Flop, it's like you're faintish all the time whenever a certain circumstance or scenario happens. Some people, the very scent of the person's cologne who once hit them would make them faint. Flight, something happens and you got to go. There's a disagreement and you assume it's going to become aggressive like it did in your childhood, so you're the first one out the door. Didn't even utter a word of prayer, didn't even say, hey brethren, let's calm down. We're just out the door. There's that flight trauma response. And then fawn, where we try to do whatever it takes, good or bad, legal or unlegal, right, to just let the situation calm down. This is a trauma response. Fawn. To fawn, you're doing whatever it takes, even if it goes against your morals, against the word of God. There's a trauma response called fawning. And if you don't recognize what it is that you often do, you're going to have a hard time accessing and living with unshakable faith. You're not going to have unshakable faith while not knowing what is your trauma response. As I wrap up tonight, I want to remind everyone how important it is to talk about this. It is not something you have to talk about every day. It is overwhelming. It is not a topic you have at dinner every single day, but it is something we cannot be ignorant to. The statistics, particularly just in the Black community in today's day and age, are growing higher and higher and higher. You turn on the TV, and even if you don't turn to a news station, a commercial or something will pop up that is quite traumatic. If it's not happening in your house, it's happening in your neighborhood. If it's not in your neighborhood, it's happening in your cousin's neighborhood. If it's not happening in your cousin's neighborhood, it's across the world where you one day might travel. It is ignorant of us not to consider how to maneuver and navigate situations of trauma while being children of God, called to have unshakable faith. So I beg of you to consider, reflect, bring it to in prayer, and ask God to reveal to you what are the things that what are the traps I often fall for. And so when I experience something, when you allow me to go through the next storm, Father God, how will I make sure I exhibit my unshakable faith and not fall for the symptoms that are common of trauma or the responses that are common of trauma. Thank you for your time.
Praise the Lord. Thank you to Sister Saunia for her presentation today. Don't go too far because I'm going to open it up right now for question and answer period. So is there any questions you have, whether something she has mentioned in her presentation or just your own question regarding something that you experienced or someone else experienced, and just input on how to go about maneuvering that situation? If you have a question, just now's the time. If you are on Zoom, if you could type your question out and then we could have them read to her, that would be great, because right now we're just having a little bit of a technical difficulty. So if you can type your questions out if you're on Zoom, we will ensure that we read them and she can answer them. Okay? So any in-house questions for our presenter, Sister Saunia? One second.
Thank you, Sister Marsha. I just want to say thank you, Sister Sonia, for this great presentation. Um, there was something that you said. You said that it stood out to me, like everything, because I have been a victim of trauma. And then um, the presentation, I can say, has been very helpful. Um, there was one part he said that we should identify it, work on it, and address it. And this was what I had to do in order to get over my trauma. I had to work on it, and as you said, develop a routine. One of my routine was I started journaling. So I started journaling my progress of how would I would have react to a situation. And then I go from the day. So sometimes there would be a repeat, maybe of not the same but similar. And then I would have seen my progress. And that was on the physical side. And as we're talking about maintaining unshakable faith, and so that was very helpful to me. So I started working on the physical part of me. Not just that, I developed a routine. I started make sure that I prayed, and that was a part that had to be a part. That was like one of the foundation of my routine. I prayed, I journaled, and that helped me. And also, um after that period is like I could know that I was recovering and healing from whatever trauma. So I just want to say it's a very great presentation, and we should not really take it for granted, because as believers, a lot of us are going through trauma, have been traumatized, and we need to deal with it, because there can be a spillover, you know. So as you said, I really enjoyed this presentation, and it's very informative. And I just hope that all of us will not take it for granted, but take it seriously, because we are spiritual being, physical being. And so, our holistic development is important. God bless you.
Thank you, Sister Kamisha. Any other in-house questions? Yes, we have from our path. Can I just give you the mic so those online can also hear? Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. All right, so as you mentioned the different stages and you spoke about the trauma, someone is going through trauma, but they are not able to identify that they are going through trauma. What are some of the signs that, as a psychotherapist, you would use to determine that these persons are going through trauma, and what are your suggestions or ways in which they can identify or overcome them?
Thank you, Pastor Barnes. Very good question. It's common, actually, that individuals get sent to therapy or recommended, referred to therapy, and they say, "Well, Saunia, my wife says that I've been through trauma and I need to come to therapy," or "My mom said she's paying for me because she said I'm traumatized," or so, "I don't know what she's talking about, but I'm here, Simia." Kind of thing, right? They just lay it out of it. And so the notion of, like, first of all, thank you for even coming, because I know it was probably hard for you or uncomfortable. But I'll dive into the conversation of, like, okay, well, what's been happening lately? Have you been doing anything odd or different? What type of feedback are people giving you? When I'm asking these questions, I'm trying to see how socially aware the person is, because they claim to be very self-aware. I'm fine, nothing's wrong with me. I don't know what she's saying. I don't know what he's talking about. They did me wrong, or da, 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 that's why I raised my voice, or that's why I slammed the door. It's his fault. They claim to be very self-aware, but are you socially aware? What are the people around you saying? Do you enter a room and people seem tense? Do you enter a room and you're the loudest, but you're not the speaker? Or when you're in the room and people are talking to you, can they give you eye contact for long? Do you give them eye contact for long? Or is it that you don't bother? You can't tell me one person's shirt color after the whole service. How socially aware are you? And often that is the little doorway for me to say, hold on, something's going on. You seem very self-aware. You're self-proclaimed even, but socially you're clueless. What's going on? You're telling me on your bus route that you were just only in your head. You can see what's going around you. You can't remember the street, nothing. And so that's when they say, yeah, it's been like that for a while, actually. I've just been only focused in my head or what's going on. And that's one of the easiest ways for a therapist to identify someone. Hold on, I think something's going on. Either there's like an acute stress, like we talked about in the presentation, acute stress going on there, or you're very secluded, you're very eye centered, which is not healthy either, or there's something that has happened to you that's made you maybe freeze up and become numb. Can we talk about that? Right. And many times the notion of it, so just because someone said I'm crazy, does that mean I'm crazy? And I have to identify, hold on, let's not call you crazy in the session. But the people, if many people are giving you the same feedback, they can't all be getting up and preparing to talk to you every morning. Hey, you know what? When we see John Road on the street, make sure you tell him that he's crazy. Make sure you tell him that. No, if people at work are saying these things, at school are saying these things, at home, all these different environments, it's time for us to look into it. You're the common denominator, right? And that's a hard conversation for someone to hear. But for those of us who are maybe begging and pleading for someone to seek help, I encourage you to start paying attention to the conversations about social awareness. You know, the person is very self-aware, but how socially aware are they? That's a good starting point. I hope that answers your question. I think there's some questions on Zoom. Yes, can you read it? What is the best trauma response? Okay. So there's no hierarchy. I want to make that very clear. Of all the 5 trauma responses, none of them are better than the other. Those are just actual fact, like responses that we as humans have. There's no like, oh, if you're getting healthier, you're gonna choose fight instead of flight. No, none of them are ideal. Rather, it is for us to regulate so that you don't feel the urge to flight or fight or freeze or fawn or flop. The best response ideally is for you to be able to take that breath and regulate, like the chaos to be passing by you and you to still be able to be still, thus said the Lord. Right, so that's the ideal. However, we are human, and sometimes we'll be able to stay still and be like, hold on, I've seen this coming, the Lord has warned me, or I've been reading the word, I've been staying and staying close to him. It's easy for me to stay close to him when I've been hanging on to him day and night. But when I've been busy and not staying connected, not having devotion, I'm not getting those constant reminders. When I've been isolating, I'm not even tuning into an online service, let alone going into the house of the Lord. I haven't been in any community. There's no accountability. It's very easy then to choose fights when trauma comes your way. If I've been isolating and staying home because someone offended me, it's very easy then to choose freeze. If I've been not showing up to work, not doing my duties, not calling anyone, it's very easy to then fawn. Does that answer the question? Are there any others? Okay. What are some of the techniques to handle panic attacks? Okay. Well, panic attacks, for those who aren't aware, panic attacks can look very different. You could be sitting beside someone on the bus and they appear to be fine looking out the window, but they could be experiencing a panic attack. It's not always the extravagant, oh, I can't breathe. That is a way it can look, yes, but it can also be with someone who's literally cannot open their mouth. It can also be with someone who's sitting there and shaking. It can also be someone who's sitting there and their eyes are rolling back. There are many different variations of having a panic attack and how we control it and yeah, handle it as the person or someone trying to help someone. Which one are you? It's both. Okay. So if I'm witnessing someone who I believe to be having a panic attack, sometimes a person can tell you, Saunia, oh my gosh, I'm having a panic attack right now. I'm very anxious. In those moments, don't assume that whatever you have learned, read is best. Ask, what can I do for you right now? Sometimes they can reach out for your hand and they just need something to ground you. As a psychotherapist, I've taught a lot of individuals to try and ground themselves right away. So if that means taking off your shoes and touching the ground to remind yourself that you're still, that you're not moving around anywhere, remind yourself that you're grounded. Or if it's to take a deep breath and hold their stomach and take that deep breath. Sometimes it is to curl up in a ball. For some of my younger clients, they get somewhere and curl up in a ball so that they can feel like they're hugging or they're being hugged, and that sense of being engulfed or embraced. right? For some, it is getting a heavy blanket or heavy jacket. Sometimes you'll see, like, especially in the summertime, when it's really, really hot out, yet someone's walking around with this big, big jacket. Often, it's not because they're just being rebellious or on substances. It is often a tactic for individuals who suffer from anxiety. They need this heavy presence of feeling embraced to then keep themselves grounded at the cost of sweating out throughout the entire day. It is a tactic that some individuals do use. Now, if I'm, again, always ask, what can I do for you in that moment? And if they have the ability to verbally communicate, they will. I just need you to hold my hand. I just need you to help me breathe right now, or help me get off this. But like, they will most likely tell you. But it's very dangerous for us to just assume. That could make the panic attack even worse, right? Where when you ask and the person cannot verbally communicate with you, the number one best thing to do is to create space. Ask people to move away from around them. So give them the essence, the notion that they have space. It reminds them that, okay, I can get up and walk right now to calm myself down. Or if I need to lay down, I can lay down because now there's space on the bus or in the church or wherever. And the notion of that we're not all going to crowd around you. This creates hyperactivity. The notion of fear, frustration, claustrophobia is often produced after that too.
I was on a flight and, you know, we were going some real turbulence, and the person beside me was very nervous, was panicking.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she was shaking very hard. And she says, I says, can I help? And she says she's nervous. She feels as if she's gonna die because of what was happening. And all I could say is to her is, as long as I'm in this flight, we're not gonna die. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
And I asked her if I could hold her hand, and she says yes.
Yeah.
And she come right down.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, I've
Yeah.
really experienced it. It
Yeah.
helps.
That sense of grounding someone, because often when in therapy, when asked, hey, what were you feeling when you were having that panic attack, what was going on with your thoughts, as a psychotherapist, we try to separate one's thoughts from their feelings and from their behavior. We saw the behavior, you were panicking. We know the feelings, you were anxious, but what were your thoughts? I can't read your mind. When they have regulated, they often say things like, oh, my thoughts were all over the place. I couldn't even focus. Or I was thinking I was going to die right away. And even though there was no threat, right away, I just thought. And so you holding their hand, or them even just sitting down, stretching sometimes, it reminds them, hold on, hold on. There's no immediate threat right now. If this person is willing to hold my hand on the plane, there's no immediate threat. I can take a deep breath. I can calm down. Right? So grounding, that's that technique, and sometimes even just that hug, right? That could be very helpful too. Was that the last question online?
Follow-up question. I'm not sure, and I'm not sure in terms of like psychotherapists or the counselor, but at any point when it is that you do realize that persons are experiencing any of the 5 areas that you do touch on, and after like several rounds of counseling, uh, do you at any point start recommending medication for anybody going through any of these challenges?
Yes. As a psychotherapist, I cannot prescribe any medication. I want to make that very clear. Nor can I diagnose. I can support individuals after receiving diagnosis from a psychologist or physician, like a doctor, or I can help assess and say, hold on, according to what I've learned and what I've assessed you with, you are displaying a lot of signs of depression. I would recommend you go see Dr. So-and-so, which is a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so that they can do the official assessment in that case. Now, when medication comes, medication will never solve a symptom. I want to make that very clear. There is no medication on earth that can take away depression. There is no medication on earth that can take away PTSD. There are lots of medication that can decrease the symptoms of the depression. They can decrease the anxieties tremendously. They can decrease the symptoms of the I'm about to harm myself or harm others significantly. Very close to, oh, it's been 2 years and I've never had that feeling again. But get off that medication for a month and things may become rocky. right? And so for individuals who now start to display concerns of harming themselves or harming others, they're unstable, they're not able to take care of their daily functioning needs. Like I'm hearing things like, oh, you haven't eaten and you live alone, or you haven't showered and I've seen you twice this week and you're in the same clothes. Like that's the time where I start to assess and say, hey, I think we should have an appointment with your family doctor and explore some medication so we can decrease some of these symptoms to bring back some of the rationality in your thought process. It's dangerous to just ignore those signs and say, okay, don't worry, we're going to keep using talk therapy, because that's what psychotherapy is. We're going to keep using talk therapy, and you're going to remember to keep showering properly, and you're not going to have those temptations of harming yourself or others with all these cooking knives around. And you're a police officer with all these weapons that you have access to. No, now is the time to decrease these symptoms, these urges, because your brain's not, your amygdala is not able to do that for you right now while in the trauma. Your hippocampus is not able to do this for you right now while in this trauma. Let this medication help until we are stabilized so that we can continue the path. Okay? So medication is not a quick fix.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I wasn't going to say anything, but let me just say it. I remember 2020, during COVID, I had 9 deaths in my family.
9. Wow.
And during that 9 deaths, in space of 1 week, 2 of my uncle died.
I'm so sorry.
One the Monday and the other one the Sunday. During that time, my mother died, and I have cousins that died. I had to stand alone because it was COVID. I was in the forefront of everything. Before she died, it was a process going back and forth from the hospital. My uncle was in the hospital too. I had a bag on the right and the next bag on the left.
Yeah. Very traumatic.
I believe God see me through.
Yes.
Some months ago, I saw my life flash in front of my eyes.
Wow.
Gunman came to kill me. And during that process, there are times I still hear the gunshots
Flashbacks.
because it wasn't the ordinary gun, it was a rifle. The sound was like Vietnam sound.
Yeah.
So there are times I can't, any sound,
Yeah. Certain.
trigger. When it just happened, it's like I could not walk on the road because I felt as if somebody is watching.
Watching. Yeah.
So I was like a zombie.
Freeze and flop.
I can't explain how I felt, but I believe what kept me is prayer. But whenever time I notice I'm not myself, and others do see that, I am not that bubbling like before, because the house of the Lord used to be my everything. And at the time, I was told that I can't visit the house of the Lord as I used to, because the police was thinking that they know my routine, and they would visit. So there and then, it was my secret place in my house where I was, because I have to leave the house at and even when I do go home, my children, nobody come to my house. Nobody come to my house. Nobody. So whenever time I do go home, I would cook for everybody on the street. I'm just trying to feel something I don't know. And I would move up the furniture and I would change up the curtains, but things is just not the same. And I don't know. Whenever time I feel alone, I would eat something nice. I would eat Devano's ice cream with the peanuts. And I work so much to lose the weight, and I've lost 25 pounds. And I put on more than the 25 pounds now. You understand? Because whenever time I feel as if I can't manage whatever I'm feeling, I try to eat something sweet, something nice, to feel comfortable, to feel a bit happy. Because my children, I have 2 children, and they're not living. My son is living in America. And my daughter, she lives in Trelawney. I have 7 grandkids. 5 is in America, 2 is in Jamaica. And none of my grandkids come to my house. Those in America, they came down and have to travel to Trelawney to stay with them. But what really keep me now, I believe through it all, God have a plan. God have a plan. I don't know the plan, but I believe in my heart that He must have a plan. You know?
Yeah.
So, and I feel as if what is going on the each side is taking a toll on my health.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
So, what can I do? I just take it to the Lord. That's what I do. I take it to the Lord in prayer.
Yeah. We take it to, may I add, with all due respect,
Yes.
I thank you so much for standing up out of your seat and speaking right now, because you have blessed and eased so many individuals who are going through trauma and refuse to share. And you've done so in the house of the Lord. You've broken so many chains by opening your mouth. May I utter that first and foremost, because there are so many people online, in-house, at home, who are going through similar, if not the same, and refuse to utter a word. So you've shattered doors just by doing that already. But this notion of, I'm going to take it to the Lord, is first and foremost, as a believer, our must. It's not ignorant to do so, it's a must. But we are also to do use what He has given us, for one. And number one, I say to a lot of my clients, believers and non-believers, is what are your limits? God has given you talents, gifts, tools, and communities and resources that are within your limits. Are you using them? Not you, us as the community and individual? Are we using them, and then do we know our limits? So that could look like, for some, and I heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, the police advise you not to go sometimes to church because maybe the perpetrator was watching you or knew your routes. So your limits were tied with having to stay within your home during that time period. A resource, where because unfortunately I've supported someone through similar situations here in Ontario, Canada. Yeah, somewhere else. Yeah, they were told under custody they had to stay at another address that the police assigned, and they would monitor. They were also told they also had the right to know how long were they advised to have to stay there. There's a time period. It is not forever. You're not going to be displaced forever, right? But the notion of staying still and just taking it to the Lord while not using any resources is very dangerous. And so it is wise of us to follow the authorities, yes, but to be displaced forever, that is very troubling, to have to leave your home forever. But to leave, I would say, is something you need to entertain, to stand still in that space where there's no safety, no peace of mind, and your family can't visit you. Your isolation by force is very dangerous. Isolation on purpose, to fast and pray, this is powerful. When I say, you know what, hey guys, I'm coming off of social media next week. Don't look for me on Facebook because I'm going to go and in my closet and pray. That's by choice. That's powerful. But when I'm isolated by force, that's why so many people passed away during COVID. We were isolated by force. Sickness, laws, rules, fines, losing our jobs if you don't take the injection, by force, right? That's why so many people died, not only physically, but psychologically. Many of us had lost our stature. So what you're describing is isolation by force. That's dangerous ground. So I beg of you to explore. I would encourage you and pray with you. Like, what is in my bandwidth, Lord, that I can use? What resources, big and small? What gifts have you given me? What do I have that where can I go momentarily?
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. No, you did. Okay, so sometimes you left. Your own peace of mind, it would be very hard. Be very hard. But I would love to have further conversation with you after if you are comfortable, by all means. I know we're from two different countries and the rules may be different, but we do have something. Yeah, we do have rules and we do have associations where I can connect with. I've supported individuals who are visiting in Canada, but they live in Dubai, and I connected them with therapists and teams and supports there because there's different organizations due to our license that we can find others. And some are costly, some are not. So please don't be frightened, right, in that regard. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
it's. I have a question here from Zoom, but it's ironic, if I should say so, in a sense, or I don't know if I'm using the right choice of words, because I wanted to ask you, in a sense, before our evangelist shared, because one of the things that I am seeing so frequent now is that persons who go through trauma or different things and then go to counseling or the psychotherapist. I wanted to find out, in a sense, in terms of with your time in this field, right? The unconventional way in advising or assisting your clients in overcoming. Because why I say the unconventional way is that for you as a believer, right? Because I do understand that at times we tend to lean towards the studies in terms of helping the different persons to like kind of overcome. But in your field and the time that you are there, how many times are the unconventional way in terms of like from the faith perspective have you seen where you have kind of stepped away from that thesis, the teaching, the studies, and how much that side of it has assisted persons to kind of overcome what they're going through?
In other words, how many times have I not just used what I learned in master's technology to then also used unconventional means, kingdom
Yes. Yes.
methods. To be frank, from day one,
Okay.
I was blessed enough to have teachers and professors who were very transparent in sharing that what they were taught as doctors, professors, clinicians was very limited. And through history, they have learned, and through time progressing, they have learned, seen, and read research that there are holistic ways, holistic meaning other ways. There are other ways, including one's spirituality, one's faith, community being a whole nother mechanism now that society is big on, community, that have been ignored, neglected. And so it's not just a matter of, okay, what can we do during this CBT session, cognitive behavioral therapy session? What about, hold on, what's your prayer life like? Or do you believe in a higher being? Or what's your relationship with in community? Like we lean on these things. I was lucky enough to be one of those trained to not ignore that of someone. And so the language that we use is like the breaking down the colloquial, forgive me for not knowing the term, breaking down the barriers or the stereotypes of what therapy is supposed to look like. That you come in a room, you sit on a chair, and someone of authority is on the other chair, and you talk for a little bit, and then they tell you all the things about your life, as if they know more about you than that. And so that's not how I was trained. Whereas I was trained that the individual comes in, and it is an honor, first of all, that someone comes in and shares anything with you. And when they come in, there's parts of them that they don't even know about themselves. And when they do come in, whatever they're sharing, there's parts of them and there's people who have influenced them. And there's sometimes spirits who have influenced them. And sometimes there are beings who have influenced them. Animals, nature, things, depending on where they live and where they're coming from, that have influenced them. And we are to bring that to the room and see what happens. And not force it upon the person, but hey, have you considered that this is something that, for example, a common question is, this sounds more than just a cognitive challenge, what you're going through. This sounds almost spiritual. What does that question make you feel? And for some, it's like, oh, well, they bring up right away, well, my grandma did voodoo, and and right, what their interpretation of that word, or the notion of this sounds spiritual. Oh, well, I've tried my best to meditate, and when you're meditating, what are you connecting to? What are you trying to do? Because some use the phrase, I'm trying to meditate just to calm myself down. Others, I'm trying to meditate to connect with a higher being. Who is that higher being? How's that working for you? Does that higher being have a name? In Christianity, it's called God. In this, it's called something. How's that working for you? Right? And so particularly with my private practice, we're all Christian clinicians, and we're very open with that faith. And we have observed, though, we support individuals who are not identifying as Christian, and they come to us particularly because we don't ignore the element of spirituality. We don't ignore the, hold on, you're not just a human being. Like, you're not just, it's not just so, you can just wake up as, like, there's something higher than you. We will not whisper that we believe it is God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, but we also will ask and like wonder, what do you call it, and how is that working for you? Is that working? Is that helpful to your mental health? Is that adding up for you? So yeah.
So, thank you. Question from Zoom. What advice can you give to persons in church that are in leadership and are going through some of these trauma, and because of pride or fear to reach out to get help?
Can you repeat
So
the
let me say
question?
that
Yeah.
again. What are some advice can you give to persons in church that are in leadership and going through some of these trauma, but because of pride, they are afraid to reach out to seek help?
Okay. I think the word that stands out to me is they're in leadership.
Yes, and going through the trauma, but not seeking help
Not
because
seeking
of
help.
pride.
Yeah. Wow. Well, pride is a very dangerous thing. We all know, but especially as a leader, it's dangerous not to deal with our own mental health challenges or to be aware with our mental health challenges, because as a leader, you naturally have influence, right? Like, you walk into a room, and just because someone knows you have such title, there's a natural bias we have, and we're gonna treat that person slightly a little bit more differently. We're not like, we hear Dr. So-and-so, oh, let me sit up straight, give them the good mic. And like, we hear evangelist, right? We have that natural bias, and it's unfortunate that we can't see the person is still human. They breathe and talk and walk just like the rest of us, and so because we can't erase that bias overnight. As you become a leader, it's important that you take care of your own mental health. My supervisors and directors have always said, doctors have doctors, therapists need therapists, engineers need engineers, right? Like you're not the end all be all. No matter how long I've been in this career, a decade plus, and I too still have to speak to a therapist every now and then. Right, I too need to see my doctor. I support doctors at the University of Toronto. Like, they are quick to come and sign up for therapy after surgery, after performing surgery, after losing a patient. Like, they're quick to run. But yet sometimes the leaders in our church, they feel maybe limited. Maybe there's a lack of sometimes. I personally feel many Christian leaders who reach out to our organization, they describe a lack of support. And so it's not just always that they're ignorant and their pride gets in the way. Sometimes there's literally a lack in numbers of who they can turn to. And by that I mean, who can they turn to who will naturally have confidentiality versus someone who has to work on confidentiality. Example, the other day looking through I would love to reconnect with another therapist, a lot of stressful things going on in my life, and I go to Psychology Today, one of the classic websites we advise our clients to turn to when looking for a therapist. And the first 3 pages, I knew every single therapist there. How do I turn to and so what do I have to do? I have to look for someone way out of the city and who has less chances of knowing me. But my intention is to get support. My intention is to follow what the Holy Spirit says. It's time to connect with community. And so if it means I got to connect to someone who's really far, that's what I have to do. And this is hard, and sometimes it's not affordable for individuals, but it's helpful, and it's not going to be something you have to do long term. So I would encourage those leaders who maybe you don't have the support in your community. Maybe you've spoken at so many churches, you've spoken at so many conferences, people know you, and you fear there's no natural confidentiality. I mean natural, meaning they truly don't know you, and they don't know anyone in your circle. So it's going to be easy for them to keep things confidential. Versus they run in your circle, or they come to meetings, they go to your conferences, they're going to have to work on that confidentiality. And that sometimes makes a lot of leaders in the church hesitant. It's easier to know that, oh, brother so-and-so coming from Dubai, who I've never seen, is now someone I'm going to speak to, versus someone in Brampton, down the street. For some reason, it makes us uncomfortable, just as humans, not just as leaders. Right? But I beg of you, even if you have to look further than your postal code, please do so. It's worth it. And it will not have to be long term. When you truly get the right connection, the right help, it's never long term. I've done supports with individuals from the opposite end of Ontario, and in 3 good solid sessions, the person was much healthier. The person felt lighter. They had routines that were effective in their home, let alone in their church, after just 3 solid sessions, knowing that I'm not in their community. I'm not coming to their church tomorrow, right, kind of thing. So that lightens the load. So if pride is the issue, try to at least remind yourself that you need support. Put pride aside and maybe go outside of your postal code to find that support.
Thank you.
It does. It helps a lot.
Yeah, I was saying that what Sister Saunia was saying, it works for me. I remember some years ago, not far ago, I was going through some serious stuff, and I had to get counseling, and it really helps me. And even now, I have helped a lot of person with those pointers that I got.
Yeah.
You know, it helps me. One of them is that whenever I heard Sister Evangelist was saying that she eats something nice, maybe something not healthy, but one of the best thing is to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So you can eat, but eat something healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Yes. One of my main thing, oh my God, that I always do is to get a nice steamed fish. You know, and it helps me. I'd go out somewhere, and I remember the counselor told me that I must go somewhere where I can de-stress, like you can scream, other from church. And so, here in Canada, you don't have a beach of such. So I was introduced.
We have some nice lakes and
But you
rivers.
introduced, I think, Janelle to that go place.
Yes.
And I went to that go place. Oh my God. After going into the heat, I went into the shower thingy, and it was beating on my back. And I was just screaming as if persons would know there that it is the water. But I know it was more than the water. And I scream. When I went to work that night, oh my God, I felt like I was in heaven. I was so released. So when you are, stressed, some of the things is to find time for yourself and do some healthy things that will help you to overcome. It helps. So get some counseling.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I get from the counseling, and it really helps me.
Yeah, the first thing we can do for a sense of control is taking care of our body, right? The temple, because we may not be able to get to the what feels like the root right away of the issue. But if I can remember to shower, if I can remember to eat something relatively healthy, if I can remember to walk and move my body and stretch, while you're doing this, you're frustrated, like, oh man, this is not paying the bill, or this is not dealing with, right? But you're doing what you have control over, and at the very minimum, you are calming down the amygdala in your brain, saying that in this moment, while I am eating breakfast, while I am showering, the imminent crisis is not here. The house is not on fire. The gunman is not here right now with me. Right? The person who attacked me, who sexually assaulted me, is not here right now in this moment. While I am showering, while I'm eating this bread and this bread, they're not right here in this moment, and it helps you separate the present from the past. But when we don't do these things, when we dismiss these small things, it all becomes blurry. It all feels like what happened last year is right now. What happened in the 2 weeks ago is right now, right? And that's when we lose a sense of control. Right? So the small factors are very, very crucial. Clients have cussed me out before. They come after a traumatic event, and I say, well, how's your morning routine? What have you? And Saunia, do you hear what I just said? Did you hear what I just been through? And you're asking me, did I brush my teeth? And I'm thinking, but did you? No. Okay, when's the last time? I can't even remember. I was going through. Well, can we start? And I have to convince them almost. Can you start? What is in your control? When's the last time you changed your attire? What is in your control? Because the police are out there doing what they need to do for you. But what is in your control? And while doing that, I just need your amygdala to regulate. I just need you to stop thinking the house is on fire as we speak. You made your way to my therapy office, so there's no fire on you. I need you to accept that, so then we can have a conversation. That we just need the amygdala to calm down. Does that make sense? Thank you for these questions. Thank you.
I
for
have
these
one
questions.
question.
Go ahead.
As a parent, how do you support your child when you know they've been through trauma? They don't communicate, and you don't know. How do you support them? Like, that is a very hard situation.
It varies. Psychologists will say it depends on the child's age. Younger ones, by younger ones I mean like 8 and under. We do a lot of what's called play therapy. And so again, in the Black community, parents have yelled at me because they bring their child who's seen or felt and experienced some things, and I'm coming to them with toys. And they said, what are you, this is not daycare. I didn't pay you how much money to come and play with my picnic. Like, what are you doing? And I'm thinking, no, give me half an hour. I beg of you, just half an hour. And for the younger ones, what they experience, because they don't have the words, because what they experience was never supposed to happen, it was way past their time or their experience, they will act it out for you, unfortunately. So whether it is bullying and they've been hit or touched inappropriately, sexually assaulted, or just isolated, sometimes we'll put Lego pieces and they'll separate the colors, and all the red is over here and all the other colors are mixed up fine. And I'll say, why? How come we can't? And they won't let you touch the red. Why? Oh, the red doesn't have friends. Why? Well, no, but all the other ones, they play together all the time, but the red doesn't have friends, and the red is them. right? Like, so for the younger ones, we tend to use play therapy. Now, age 10 and up, or those who are just intellectually advanced, even at that stage, leading up into teenager years, they tend to do very well with telling you someone else's problems before they tell you theirs. So for my teens clients, I tend to then say things like, "Hey, like we use pop culture a lot. Like, hey, what's going on in the news right now, or how do you think that person feels?" And I have to navigate through. Okay, how do you sound very convinced that that's what Cardi B is going through? How do you know? And and then eventually, this happened to me, and so if that's what happened to me, obviously that's what Cardi B is thinking. Cardi B is a rich millionaire hip hop artist right now, for those who don't know. But there are many teens who feel very aligned with her because she was cheated on by her husband. And so a teenager could come to therapy heartbroken, going through things because their first crush was rude to them or whatnot, and they won't tell me that, but they'll tell me all the things about Cardi B. And by having that conversation, which may seem ridiculous to the mom who's there, if you don't stop talking about the Cardi B and just tell me and then eventually we get to, hold on, this relates to this person. Then you have those individuals who are not connected to social media or pop culture at all. And so we can't use those examples. And rather, it's a notion of similar. Earlier on, I think Pastor Mullins asked the question of how do you support someone who is unaware that they're going through trauma? I bring into the room the social awareness. I'm like, what kind of feedback are you getting from others? What do you mean feedback? I don't talk to anyone. Okay, that's interesting. So you're not very social. That's what you're telling me. But what are people saying to you? They're saying hi, hello, what's going on? How are you doing? And how often do they say that? Oh my gosh, every day. They're so annoying. They keep asking how I'm doing. Oh, isn't it normal for people to ask how you're doing? Like, yeah, but why do they always seem so concerned? You tell me. Why do they seem so concerned? And it's a lot of, again, giving them the power to tell me what their impression is of other people towards them. And it's until we come to an agreement. It sounds like a lot of people are worried about you. Sounds like a lot of people are concerned. It sounds like people keep asking you the same questions in different ways. I think there's a message people are trying to get across to you. What do you think? So when did that start? Was it always like this since birth? People just always asked you these questions? Or did something happen and then people start asking you these questions? Tell me about that summer after grade 8. Tell me about that summer after grade 10. And then, that's when people start asking you. That's so weird. That's funny. And then I tend to, after the session ends, go back home and tell me what happened that summer. Write it down, and I'll get these long emails or texts from, this is what happened that summer. Yes, in the third person. It's them. Yeah. Yeah. And they're very, for the teenagers or young adults, up to 21, sometimes 25 for the males, they are very observant as to how you respond to someone else's traumatic response. So someone else gets beat up, and if you're like, boy, that little boy had no use. He couldn't even defend himself. That young man will never come to you and tell you that he too was boxed up at school. Like, he will never. So please be mindful, even if that is your first inclination, which many of us as Caribbeans, it is the first notion to laugh or to make something comical, and so we think, that person is so thin-skinned or they're so soft, but especially when they're in the height of the trauma, we are very observant. Remember, the amygdala is dysregulated. We're listening for who's judging, who's gonna make fun, who's gonna laugh, and I'm already hyperactive and sensitive. So you're right, the person is thin-skinned. Their amygdala is off the roof. Rather than just being open and closed, it's all like this. It's ready for war, right? So if you were to say, wow, even if you find yourself chuckling, being like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have chuckled. That's actually very serious. I hope that young man or that young girl is okay, because I would have never been able to go through that. That allows them to know that, okay, maybe I can tell that person eventually. They're probably not going to come to you right away because they saw the chuckle. That's a hindrance, a hesitation for a lot of youth, particularly males with pride. But the notion of be mindful that how they are sharing someone else's trauma or incident, even just what they saw on their phone, they come to you and they're telling you this thing, it sounds random, they are fishing. And that's what we talk about in therapy. Like, I even ask clients to practice this with their family. You're terrified to tell mom that someone touched you inappropriately. and you think mom's gonna judge you and laugh at you. But have you ever seen mom even talk about the topic? No. Okay, can you bring her this news article? I have sought out articles myself and said, go read this and see how mom reacts. And they come back, oh my gosh, my mom was in tears. She was crying for the person. She prayed for the person. She brought the article to church, Saunia. And then, right, like, so I said, see, she's gonna react well. She cares. That's not even her family. And she brought it to the prayer meeting. Oh gosh, Saunia, she won't stop talking about the article all now. So that means she's not gonna stop talking about me. I'm like, but you wanted to talk about it. Right? And so they will fish a lot. They'll put a little teaser out there. Say, oh my gosh, see what happened to so-and-so? Do you see what happened to Saunia at the altar? Oh gosh. Right? Do you see what happened to so-and-so? They will fish. They will put those things out there. And it's intentional. They are young, but they are intentional. I wonder what mom is going to see about that. Oh, I saw when Sister Saunia fell down. I wonder what dad's going to see. I wonder what my big sister, my so-and-so is going to say. So what happens when it's me? Oh gosh, I don't want to go up there now. Right? They're listening, especially after and not just experiencing the trauma, witnessing trauma. Right? There's such thing called vicarious trauma. Witnessing it does damage too. That's a whole nother topic, but please don't be ignorant to that too. Thank you for all these questions. I hope we've answered those online as well.
Praise the Lord. Oh.
Get therapy for the young one that is going through the trauma. Get therapy.
Willing to go to therapy, find someone, make sure they are part of the process.
Okay.
They're comfortable with. Don't just pick an old person and send them. Like don't just pick a
I understand.
right? If they're willing. If they're not willing, at least start to have those conversations about what are other people saying to you? What other feedback are you getting? And when did that start? Did it just coincidentally happen after grade 9? Did something happen in grade 12 when you graduated and all of a sudden everybody started asking the same question? Oh, I don't see you anymore. How come? What happened to you? Or, oh, everybody's just noticing the same thing. Let's talk about that. Right? Find those common denominators.
Okay.
And in the worst case scenarios, align them with a mentor. A mentor doesn't have to have all the accolades or titles. A mentor could be someone who you trust, who they trust as well.
Oh. You're supposed to have the mic.
Sorry. Had to repeat everything? Okay.
All right, thank you. A round of applause for our Sister Saunia Palmer Nelson. Thank you so much.